Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the April 19, 2018 meeting for the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I currently serve as the chair of the Shawnee County Commission. Joining me today is Commissioner Shelley Bueller. Good morning. And Commissioner Bob Archer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, if we could start with our first item.
Our first item is item 2, unfinished business, update on the Kansas Expo Center master plan renovations.
At this time, if HTK, Chuck Smith, if you...
Good morning, Commissioners. Chuck Smith, HTK Architects. I did have a few things but I don't need to show those.
All right.
If they come up, I will. So a couple updates. I think you're all aware that we are negotiating a contract with for geotechnical services. We have met with Terracon, worked through what we believe is an appropriate scope for the project, and I've asked them to expedite getting that proposal put together for your consideration, hopefully a week from today. So we'll be moving that quickly ahead. Through that process, as I've mentioned before, we learned a lot about what we could expect on the north side of Expo, what we can expect on the south side of Domer, and what we should expect out on the east side for the new entrance concourse. So it's helped us start to kind of reshape and really take a focus on what our estimates might look like. I've spent many hours this week working on the estimates to kind of verify. As you know, option 4 was targeted at about $3 million more than the master plan. Currently, that's running at 3.356 more than the master plan. And then there's a number of other things that have come up through this that Spectre would like to advance, and so a number of options. Production kitchen at $500,000, the potential of putting a mezzanine in on the Expo expansion at $1.3 million, and so on. So I went back and compared how the numbers changed between the barn at $45,000 south of Expo and an Expo expansion to the north of Expo Hall, moving Domer, our second arena, up against Domer versus being south, that kind of things. And that netted out about where we thought it would be at 3.35, well, it's mostly that 3.356. I was able to credit the already Maynard Conference Hall against that. HVAC, since that was not part of the tax initiative, so I was able to credit that. So for a net, using that there is a net of right just a tad over $3 million for that difference. There's a number of things through our meetings that that Spectre has expressed would like to have a larger center hung than previously estimated. A number of things in the AV world. Center hung ribbon boards, like to bring the ribbon boards forward if at all possible. So a lot of these things are going to be out there in that contingency zone, those alternate zones. All those, those prioritize, including Wi-Fi in Landon and Domer, is 1.6. It's not there yet. So again, those were in the alternates before, below the line, if you will. They're still below the line. So if you add all that up, you know, we're pushing $5 million that we'd really, really, really love to have in the project. I also kind of went back, and I know there's a discussion later on the deferred maintenance. When we go through all the items that are in the deferred maintenance that are in the master plan, including the parking lot, it's about $12.5 million in deferred maintenance. If I drop below the line and go to the things that were left completely off because of prioritization, that number grows to $15.6 million in deferred maintenance at the Kansas Expo Center for your consideration.
But, I mean, at this point, we're just operating off of estimates. We really don't know what the actual expenditures for the Expo Center are going to be until Terracon is able to do their survey, until we actually go out to bid, And that's also not counting if we have potential naming rights or other revenue that may come in, right?
That's a true statement. And also, these numbers that I have here have a small amount of contingency in them, but there's a larger portion of contingency that's outside of these numbers that could be used as we start to bid through the project. So I feel more comfortable with how things are bidding and that we're accomplishing what we want to accomplish, change orders or whatever that might be.
So, I mean, it's apples and oranges, but with the Willard Bridge, we had a very high estimated cost, and the bids came in very favorable.
I hope that's the case.
And I hope that's the case as well. But we just don't know until we get to that point.
That's exactly right.
Commissioner Bueller?
I don't have anything to add.
Commissioner Archer? Okay. I think that we just need to continue to make progress forward after Terracon and moving forward as we can shore up some of these bids and get maybe a firm handle on what exactly our costs are with the Expo Center.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
There is one item on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
We have vouchers totaling $550,471.23. The largest amount is $92,763.83, and that is a pass-through payment on behalf of the East Topeka Learning Center to Champion Builders. So that is included in our vouchers. Second is Parks and Recreation. It is springtime, whether we like it doesn't feel like it, but $85,030.94. And then holding accounts with State of Kansas, $61,191.96. And I do not have any questions. I'll move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A3, consider approval of resolution number 2018-19, authorizing the county clerk to destroy correction orders 2013 and prior and neighborhood revitalization applications 1995 to 2006. This is a standard destruction resolution request. The correction orders are just, they're timed out from, according to the Historical Society's records retention rules, and the neighborhood revitalization, we keep them as, the city actually has the original. We keep a copy for, because we get most of the questions, and so we just, it's just getting rid of some of the excess that we have, because we have a lot of them.
Any questions?
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Shred away. Our next item.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item B, corrections. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-134-2018 with Indeed for the purpose of recruiting applicants for correction specialist vacancies at a cost of $1,500 with funding from the 2018 detention budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just kind of a continuation of a contract we already have. We already use Indeed to help us, and it has been fairly successful. We do see sometimes there's some, where we do see a slowing down of applications that come through Indeed, and one of the things that we did talk to them, we talk to them quite often, but one of the things we talked about was maybe putting in some target words or some targeting to specific applicants. We think, we've talked to them at great length, we think this would be a very valuable tool for us. It is very tough to recruit and retain for corrections, but one of the things that part of this is that it costs us $1,500 when we use it. So right now, it would be a max of $1,500, but if we don't use, basically is that if there's an applicant that uses this specific targeting and we get them, then they charge us for the applicant. But if we don't get anybody hired, hired or through the application process, we're not charged. So it's basically as we go in, and I put a cap on it up to $1,500 just to give us an idea to see if this is really going to increase our applicants and stuff like that. I did talk to Betty regarding this. We have sent the contract and everything through Jim Crowell's office and like that, so I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Brian, I think I read in the first quarter report that we currently had, at that time, 32 vacancies at Department of Corrections.
Yes.
And so is that number stable? Do we see that rising, decreasing? So at one time, we really had an issue with vacancies at Department of Corrections.
Yet we've had a pretty big roller coaster. At one time, we were down to almost 20 vacancies, and then we had an area where we had a few that are using, what we're seeing is probably a trend, about a third of them are not making it off probation. They're just not making it. There's a third of them there that decide that it's just not for them, they're just going to ready, and then some of them we're using as a stepping stone to go to other law enforcement jobs and stuff like that. And we do lose a lot to, Sheriff's Office or the Topeka Police Department, things like that. So we are seeing a trend. It was down fairly low, and I was getting pretty optimistic about it, and then next thing you know, it can go back up. But it has been pretty stable, around 30 for the last, I would say, a couple years and stuff like that. We've had positions all filled at one time, but when I talk to my colleagues, and, I hate to use this as an excuse, but when you talk to my colleagues in other counties and stuff like that, they're using this, they're going through the same thing. Quite frankly, we're probably on the better end, because turnover rate for Shawnee County is about 27%, and that's pretty low for corrections. The national average, my understanding, is about 40, and there's some correctional agencies and even prisons that are up in the 40s and 50% of turnover. So while we're doing pretty good, I'm not satisfied with all. We can't continue to have lockdowns. We can't continue to have to overburden staff with mandatory overtime, because then that becomes burnout, and then we start losing that staff there. So we're working very hard with Angela Lewis. We're working very hard going through union negotiations, and we're trying our best to do everything we can to emphasize this is a career, this is what we want to do, and we do believe that Indeed is helping us get there, but we still have a lot of work to do. I'm not afraid to say that, we do.
Okay. Commissioner Archer, any questions?
No.
I don't have any questions. I will move approval of the contract.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B2, consider approval of request to reject the bid for exterior fencing for the Adult Detention Center's segregation housing unit and reopen bidding, changing specifications with funds remaining from the previous certificates of participation project.
Good morning again, Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. We were working very closely with Betty Greiner and Administrative Services regarding putting this out for bid to enhance the security fencing in our segregation area to allow the inmates to go out in different types of the areas for exercise and yards, which feeds into and meets our accreditation. We were seeing some deterioration of it, and we also saw that there was some, hate to use the word chicanery, with some inmates of tearing up and messing with the fencing. So we started looking and researching different options. We had a company come in and give us a bid of what they think, the types of fencing we need. So we put that out for bid specifications. We only got one bid, and it was well over $10,000 more than what our budget was. I didn't think that was responsible for us to move forward. I met with Betty a little bit, and Deputy Director Eve Kendall did as well. So we thought it was in our best interest to put this out for bid, to really maybe tighten up the specifications to see if we can get more interest in this, because this go along with our accreditation. So I'm asking permission to reject the one bid we have, and to be able to go out and redo this whole process again.
The current state of the fencing, is it a safety issue for the public or for the inmates?
Well, it can be for both. Meaning, I wouldn't say for the public, but I would say that, that there are some pieces of fencing that can be broke away that inmates can fashion into what they call a shank or a knife or something like that. I don't think it renders any type of escape or anything like that. I don't think the public needs to be worried about that. But we do have an inmate who did tear this up, try to get to another inmate through the fencing. And so we do have to worry about inmate-on-inmate violence, and if an inmate takes a piece of the metal, I have to worry about officer safety as well. So that can be a problem. But as far as the public, as in anybody escape, no.
But by rejecting the bid and going back out for bid, are we meeting those safety?
Yes,
concerns?
we are. We're monitoring and checking it every day and stuff like that to see if there's any further damage. Right now, it is maintaining. We just think it's time, before we get to the point where it gets really bad, we better be very proactive about it.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Bueller, any questions?
Do not.
Commissioner Archer, anything?
No, I just applaud Brian for doing this. I mean, if a proposal is not reasonable,
Yeah.
we should always go back and say,
Correct.
this is not acceptable.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
One thing I did want to say, because I have to leave immediately after this, is for administrative communications, if I may, is that tonight we have our 18th annual volunteer appreciation banquet, where we honor all of our volunteers. Several hundred volunteers, several thousand hours of volunteer. So this is a big banquet for us tonight. I'll come back to administrative communications a little bit more, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody, that our volunteers got the recognition they deserve. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
Absolutely. I look forward to tonight. I'm sure it'll be a home run.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a baseball theme,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Our next item.
Item C, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of project budget of $20,000 for replacement of the metal roof and siding of the Shawnee North Aquatic Maintenance Shop facility, and a project budget of $59,997.50 for replacement of Lake Shawnee Marina rental equipment, with funding from both from the Capital Maintenance 3R Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Osborne, Parks and Recreation. The item before you, this does come from our 3Rs, which is the IMP. It's been approved through them, and we have brought this down to you guys. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have on each project.
The only question I had is, I know that we have several items of deferred maintenance with other roofs of other buildings. Rather than just having it for these two, why aren't we looking at a bigger scope of replacing several buildings at once to see if there's any volume in savings?
We are looking into that. This one item, though, we do have leaks that are coming in, and we want to try to get that before the spring rains come, whenever they do come. But we're putting together a list that we have, and we're putting that together within our shelters in different places, and I think we have our top 10, and we just met with a roofing company a couple weeks ago that went around, gave us an estimate, and we're looking to get a couple others so that when we formulate that, we'll have a better bid package.
Okay. Commissioner Archer, any questions?
No.
Any questions? I'll move approval of establishing the project budget.
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Item C2, consider approval of request to award bid to Heartland Alarms, Inc. for installation of a fire alarm system at the Abbott Community Center at a cost of $14,332.50, with funding from the 2018 operating budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Susan Fowler, Hensler Parks and Rec. The purchase and installation of this fire alarm system at Abbott, where the Boys and Girls Club have their teen center, will make the basement in compliance with licensings for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment in the lower level, and it's being paid for out of operating budget.
This was a regulation that was then imposed upon us by KDHE when the Boys and Girls Club came in.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though we weren't grandfathered out by having it, it's not previously there.
Right, and we had not done the basement yet, so this is the basement level.
Okay. And then there's a ribbon cutting that's coming up.
On April 27th.
Okay. Any questions regarding this? Commissioner Archer?
Fire alarm systems in our other community centers, are they up to speed?
Yes, I think it was last year that we had to update the one at the Ville McKay Paris. So we actually, this week is when they're all being inspected right now. I know we had to do a few repairs over at Central Park, but they do get inspected annually.
Okay, so this completes the process.
Right.
All right, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item D, Kansas Expo Center. Number 1, consider approval of request for capital expenditures for purchase of a new Zamboni motor from Frank J. Zamboni and Company, Inc., in an amount of $2,933.20, and installation of the motor by Heritage Tractor in an amount of $3,825.65.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kellen Site Inspector Venue Management, Kansas Expo Center. This request before you is to secure the funding out of our capital expenditure reserves to pay for the repairs to the Zamboni. The repair was done a couple months ago and just voted on and approved by the Kansas Expo Center Advisory Board. The motor came directly from Zamboni, the manufacturer of the ice resurfacing unit that we operate, and the installation was also done by Heritage Tractor, and that has been operational for the last 4 games of the season.
We had the issue with the Zamboni earlier in the season where it completely stopped working.
The only issue we had earlier in the season was a starter issue that we got replaced before that game actually came to play, so we didn't have any game stoppage. This issue where the replacement was needed for the motor did take place the day prior to the games that were rescheduled due to the Cirque du Soleil movement for those Roadrunner games.
And then the replacement cost for a Zamboni usually runs about $100,000 or thereabouts.
Correct, yes.
And so this is a very reasonable alternative to the replacement.
Yes, yeah, and we've even explored refurbished Zamboni units, and they are still extremely cost prohibitive for us to go after that. We feel that this repair should be able to get us through the next few years of ice resurfacing and any needs that need to take place there.
Okay. Commissioner Bueller, any questions?
Thank you. No.
Commissioner Archer, anything? I'll move approval of the request.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Item E, Facilities Maintenance. Number 1, consider approval of request to solicit proposals for carpet replacement at Maynard Conference Center with funding from the Deferred Maintenance Fund and any other available sources as necessary.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. What we want to do here is get an RFP out to get some exact pricing for carpet replacement at the Maynard Conference Center. We have worked through a little bit of last year and into this year with the Mohawk Design Group team. Mohawk is the carpet that we selected throughout Shawnee County on the carpet tiles. We've worked with the hotel regarding some of the design features that the Mohawk Design Group was interested in, thinks will work at Maynard, and the hotel is in concurrence with that. So want to move forward, and so we can come up with a project budget to do some things at Maynard. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions regarding this item?
Move to approve the request.
Other question, Bill. So it's replacing carpet throughout the facility?
All of Maynard Conference Center is what
All of
we're
Maynard
looking at.
Conference Center, so the small
Approximately 40,000 square feet.
rooms, the large rooms, the
All of it.
hallways, everything?
Everything.
Okay, all right, good deal, thanks. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer for the bids proposal, and second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Item E2, consider approval of request to award bid to Foley Equipment to replace the electric drive control panel on the courthouse emergency generator transfer switch and adjustment to the cooling system on the emergency generator diesel engine at an estimated cost of $6,529.07 with funding from the 2018 contingency fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. When we did our full load generator test, we had Foley equipment here to monitor the operation of the diesel generator. It's down in the EOC, and as we went through that test with everything running, Foley did come back with these recommendations to make sure that we can extend the life of that unit and make sure it's going to operate when we do need it. So, answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions regarding this item?
I'll move approval.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E3, consider approval of request to award bid to Minnesota Elevator in the amount of $2,898 to shorten the hoist ropes on the passenger elevators in the courthouse with funding from the 2018 contingency funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. Third time, but this is it. The hoist ropes on our main passenger elevators during the annual inspection that was completed by Minnesota Elevator have begun a stretching which occurs from time to time on those. They're concerned that that'll stop the elevators from leveling at some point, so this is kind of some preventative maintenance action to make sure that doesn't occur. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions regarding making sure the elevators go up and down?
And level.
And level, yeah. I'll move approval.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item F, County Councilor, number 1, consider approval of general warranty deeds conveying the title of 4 parcels of real estate to Vallejo Behavioral Healthcare, Inc.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Kraus, Shawnee County Councilor. This is a legal housekeeping measure. There is an email in the packet from Bob Perry, Bond Counsel, to Jonathan Razan that'll give you the background of the details of the financing in this, but essentially, these are properties that are already being occupied and used by Vallejo. There was a funding mechanism for the acquisition of the properties, which require that they remain in the name of the Board of County Commissioners. That funding has been completed, and now it's time to transfer those properties to Vallejo.
Questions regarding this item?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Vallejo, it's your property.
Many thanks, Commissioners. I know Mr. Crowell put a lot of time on this. Thanks, sir.
Our next item.
Item G, Commission, number 1, consider approval of correspondence to Governor Collier to support House Bill 2597 regarding budgeting for election offices.
Commissioners, as you're aware, there was House Bill 2597 that was passed through and presented to the governor, or to be presented to the governor, regarding the how the Elections Commissioner operates in the state of Kansas. This is a letter that does support the passage of that House bill and would move for its approval to be submitted to the governor. Any questions or comments?
Second.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Cook to submit the letter to the governor, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item G2, discussion and action regarding excess funds.
Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. As you will recall, back in February, the Commission approved using $6 million of excess reserves from the general fund for deferred maintenance for Parks and Rec and/or Expo Center. So that, in February, we transferred that $6 million from the general fund to a capital project fund, where it will remain until, items are approved to be paid from that. So today is discussion on allocation of those funds to different sources.
Betty, is there any need for us to have to spend all of the money within the year 2017?
No, it has been moved to this capital project fund, and so it will stay there and carry over from year to year if it's not spent.
And so there's also not a need if we don't have to make the final decision today as to where all $6 million would go.
No, you do not.
Okay. So this would be like a savings account to draw from as we see the needs.
It could be, or it could, you could do either way, yes. It's an account that's set up there for that specific purpose and cannot be used for any other purpose unless you would vote to do so. But it is a fund that will carry over from year to year. It's not like a budgeted general fund that has to be spent that year.
Mr. Bueller?
Betty, if you could, take us back a little bit and how we got to this point, just with reserves, that we aren't, can you
Yes,
explain
yes.
that a little bit more, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
At the end of the year, if all of the expenditures do not equal what we had budgeted for the year, any excess funds then just build up in our general fund. Then we did, the Commission approved a fund balance policy where we set a minimum for the general fund, and we also set a goal. to have reserves in that general fund. Our minimum, we set at 20%, and the goal was to keep 25% in that. That's just good financial maintenance or management, financial management, so that we have reserves should something, catastrophic come up, some type of natural disaster or anything. And it could also for any economic downturn, because we all saw that. So anyway, what we did was we looked at that 25% goal. We are now above that 25% goal. And so there was $6 million in excess over that goal of 25%. So that is what you voted on to spend that excess on one of these two projects.
And so moving forward, we would do this then every year. When we exceed that 25%, would be to take that amount and we do something else with it.
You could.
Potentially, yeah.
Or you could, if it's not a significant amount, you may just want to leave it in there. I mean, that would be, at the discretion of the commission, what they want to do. At some point, sometimes, even if you have a goal, you might want to have a little bit of a cushion so you don't go below that goal. But that's purely at the discretion of the commission, whether, you would decide to do something on an annual basis or how often you would want to look at it.
We did have presentations by the Expo Center last Thursday, a week ago, outlining during a work session where the Expo Center is at and the future plans for the Expo Center. On Monday, we had a work session regarding Parks and Recreation and the needs of the Parks and Recreation in Shawnee County. And again, both the work sessions are not action items, they were just for discussion. There was a comment made during the work session for Parks and Recreation regarding the monies that have been spent on the parks and bonds and debt that have been taken out for Parks and Recreation. Do you have, maybe over the last several bonding periods, what monies were taken out?
Just financing for just Parks and Recreation. There was a COP 2007 C series that $4,118,000 was designated for Parks and Recreation. The 2009 series was $10,600,000 was designated for Parks and Rec. The 2010 series, $475,000 was designated for Parks and Rec, and then of the 2015 COP, $11 million was designated. So from 2007 through 2015, $26,193,000 was financed for Parks and Rec.
And how much of that is the total of all of the bond during that period of time?
Well, I don't have the bonds, of all of the bonds during that period of time, but of these 4 bonds, 56% of it went to Parks and Rec.
Okay. I think that's just important to know that
Yes.
what money is, and that's borrowed money.
That's borrowed money that we are still paying on. Yes.
And for a lot of those projects, it was not deferred maintenance, it was new facilities, correct? On a good
Yes.
majority of them, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's important to note that this excess is for deferred maintenance only.
That's how you
not new
designated
projects,
it.
right?
That's how you
Okay.
designated it, yes.
The $6 million.
Of the $6
Yeah.
million. Commissioners, I just kind of let you know where I'm at, having thought about this for a significant period of time. My inclination would be to designate up to about $2 million, maybe $3 million immediately to Parks and Rec to address deferred maintenance needs, allowing the Parks and Rec to get started on some of these projects, not having anything immediately designated to the Expo Center for even consideration, as we don't know what the expenditures are going to be for the Expo Center. We do have money available immediately for the Expo Center to start addressing some of its needs, but until we really have a better idea of what the Expo Center's needs are, maybe holding off on that. But we do know that there are immediate needs for Parks and Recreation that don't have any other funding sources and need to be met. And so I don't want to to short circuit it, but it's allow kind of the public to know kind of where I'm at as a commissioner before we enter into this discussion period. Commissioners?
When we discussed last year, I think it was in November, the capital improvement allocations that we were going to give for this year, essentially, we granted pretty much everybody what they wanted at that point, and we didn't allocate anything to Parks and Rec with the intention that whatever we decided to spend as far as excess reserves would go to Parks and Rec. That was the intention then. I think it should be our intention now. I don't like the idea of leaving things in the air because it doesn't allow for adequate planning. I would like for us to go ahead and commit the full $6 million to Parks and Rec. Since we consolidated Parks and Rec, expenses have been reduced pretty dramatically. When we had budget crunch back in 2014, Parks and Rec took the brunt of those budget cuts. We have a lot of deferred maintenance items in Parks and Rec. The case was made what an asset it is on Monday. The millions of people that go to Parks and Rec activities, how popular it is. I just say we put all our money that we decided in the intention of last year into Parks and Rec so they can plan moving forward in addressing the deferred maintenance items that they have. If there's more money needed for the expo, and I'm sure there's always money that can be used there, JADO has $2 million that's uncommitted. And I would think that we could make a good case that $2 million that's been uncommitted from JADO should go to the Expo Center. Because of all the items that were on the ballot, the Expo Center was on the ballot to spend money there. So that would be my view. If we need more money for the Expo Center, we petition the JADO $2 million to go there. And it's my view that we spend the $6 million that we've discussed on Parks and Rec. That's where it should go. That's my view, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Bueller?
I would move that we allocate $4 million to Parks and Recreation and leave $2 million to be determined at a later date, potentially the Expo Center, or potentially more dollars into Parks and Recreation.
So, members of the public, this is what you have. You have 3 different commissioners, 3 different views. This is your local government at work, where we're going to have some discussion. There's no motion on the floor yet.
Yes,
there is.
You did.
I did.
Okay, that's right. I apologize. Commissioner Bueller has made a motion for $4 million to go to Parks and Recreation. Would you accept $3 million for Parks and Recreation immediately as an amendment?
I would.
Okay. I would second the $3 million.
May I make just a comment? This is excess dollars for deferred maintenance. These are dollars that were saved by our employees, by all of our departments to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And so this is something that we're not going to do every year, my guess. But I just want to make sure we don't lose that these are dollars that are here because we've done our due diligence, we've been very conservative, and so I hate that there's this tussle between Expo Center and Parks and Recreation. This is for our community, and I think we're going to make all the best effort to make sure that these dollars are spent for deferred maintenance to make sure that we catch up on some things. So anyway.
And that's an excellent point. And the point is that we were able to generate those reserves primarily because of Parks and Rec because of consolidation of Parks and Rec, because we cut back. I remember we laid off employees for Parks and Rec back in the 2014 budget year. So that's a good point, the employees and everything, but it's primarily because of consolidation, and we've saved money and had the ability to do that as far as Parks and Recreation goes, in my view.
And Commissioner Archer, I just wanted to address this. There's more than, recently as an NIA meeting, I was asked a question. Do you believe that Shawnee County is properly funding Parks and Recreation? And I answered that's a very hard question to answer because we look at all the deferred maintenance needs. I mean, we immediately see that there's $7 million that needs to be met immediately. We have, every year when John submits his budget, he submits a budget for $41 million, knowing that he'll only get maybe 13. So the needs of Parks and Recreation far exceed the amount of money that we have available to us. And so my answer is we spend as much as we have available to us. But I think that part of my concern is in granting all $6 million immediately is allowing the Parks and Rec Department to get tackled on these items and not overextending the Parks and Rec Department by taking on too many projects at one time. There's a point where we become overextended in trying to do too much at one time. And I think there's a lot of needs, but if we can start managing the projects, get the projects started, $3 million does get us started immediately, and then we would be able to come back once those projects do address more needs for Parks and Recreation. So, just kind of my thoughts and process. There's a motion made by Commissioner Bueller. It's been seconded by Commissioner Cook. Before we take any vote, I know that we have many members of the public here. Allow you to come up. When you come up, please state your name so the clerk can have that. Unlike the city of Topeka, we don't have a timer, but please be courteous to everybody here. And if you hear that a comment's already been made 4 or 5 times, just recognize that it's been made 4 or 5 times. So, I see that, Ms. Marple, you're...
I get to be first.
I hope we never do have a timer, by gosh.
I would like to say, first off, I agree with Commissioner Archer. And I would also like to state that, yes, the department heads had a hand in saving the money, but you have to remember that money was paid in by the taxpayer. That's an important point. I had 3 things that I wanted to address, and I want to start with the passing of the renewal of the half-cent sales tax in November of 2014. That provided us a way to fund the improvements at the Kansas Expo. When the Shawnee County Commissioners signed the interlocal agreement with the City of Topeka on April 24, 2016, they listed what the Shawnee County sales tax project would be and how much money would be spent. I would like to take a minute, and I'm sorry, I'm going to deal with numbers and refresh everybody's memory. The Expo Center, I'm going to tell you what year it was slated to be taken, is the way I took the interlocal agreement. The Expo Center deferred maintenance in 2017 was $2,139,109. Expo Center seating in 2017 was $850,000. Expo parking and site expansion, 2018 to 2023, $5,215,826. Expo Center livestock barn renovations, 2018 to 2019. Whoops, sorry, I got off my line. 2019 to 2022. That was wait a minute. I missed my line. I'm going to start again with the livestock arena. 2019 to 2022, $16,232,207. Expo Land and Arena and Exhibition Hall, 2026 to 2029, $18,274,157. This is a total of $45 million.
I believe, and please correct me if I am wrong, that there is currently $6 million cash for this project, and a few weeks ago, March the 5th, the commissioners chose to issue bonds for the remaining amount of $39 million. After the cost of the bonds, there will be approximately $32 million, which a total dollar cost, actual dollars available for this project of $38 million. I believe that the county commissioners have a budget. They must operate within that budget. They expect their department heads to operate within the budget and not go over. The choice was made to issue the bonds now, and that was approximately $7 million in cost on obtaining those bonds. I think that the taxpayers have a right to expect the commissioners to work within the budget. The Expo has, in my opinion, never been a project with an open checkbook. We have 38 million actual dollars to spend on the Expo Center, and that is what must be spent on it. I think they must stay within the money that has been allocated for it. I'd like to move on to the carryover money. The last figure that I was given for carryover money at the end of 2017 was $34,188.42. That is the carryover amount. My personal preference on that would to be the public would see a tax cut, but I know that's not going to happen. The commissioners made a decision to put $25 million into a reserve fund. That leaves us with a balance of $9,188,042. They also voted some weeks ago to spend $6 million either to the Expo Center or Parks and Recreation for deferred maintenance. For the reasons that I've already listed, I don't believe that it should go to the Expo. If all that money was used for Parks and Recreation, it would allow every man, woman, and child within our community to benefit from it. We are the ones that paid for these taxes that created these carryover funds. People might, and I stress might, go to the Expo Center, the ones that live in the county, but they will use Parks and Rec facilities. We have lots of studies to prove that. I believe that children need playgrounds. In fact, I believe we need more of them around the city. We need community centers that allow our children and adults safe places to go. Children have a lot of energy, and it's been my experience as a parent that if you don't give them something positive to do with that energy, they're going to get in trouble. We're also becoming a very unhealthy community. We need the trails, we need the walking paths. We have to provide people with the opportunity and motivation to be physically active. I want to say also that every business person knows that assets have to be maintained or they quickly become liabilities, and that is where we are at with our Parks and Rec. We have reached a point where our assets are almost unfixable, and nobody wins when that happens. The third thing that I would like to talk about, and it's just been talked about briefly, is Camp Daisy Hyman. I have decided, since I've talked to people in the county, that Camp Daisy Hyman is one of the best kept secrets in Shawnee County. This camp was started in 1928, and it consists of 155 acres. It has for years provided Girl Scouts with unique opportunities. The Girl Scouts have decided that they can no longer justify owning Camp Daisy, and it has been put on the market. The county has the opportunity to buy it. This is a well-maintained camp, and it is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and we need to do it. I think there are others that are going to speak about the camp and tell you a lot more about it, and I don't want to bore you with repetitiveness. I think the big question in probably the commissioner's mind is how are we going to pay for it? And I believe I have a solution to that. I recently made a core request, and I would like to thank Mrs. Greiner for answering it promptly, that we have earned interest on our carryover funds, the $34,188. We have earned interest of $1,336,755. This would more than pay for Camp Daisy. I see this as unencumbered funds. It would affect no one's budget, and I cannot think of a better place where we should spend our money. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just
Yes.
respond to that? The number, she is correct in the number that we received for interest on our funds for 2017, but that is in part of my estimated revenue for the year. I do budget what I estimate that to be, so just needed to.
So are you saying that the total carryover funds are actually the 34 million?
Well, the interest we receive is on all county funds. So that 1 million number that I gave you for interest income is the total interest we received on all county funds that we held for the year. But I do budget as in our estimated revenue what I expect our interest will be for the year. So that is part of our budget process, is estimating
But
that.
that wasn't my core request. My
Well,
core request.
Ms. Barble, if you need a moment to confer with Ms. Greiner, I don't want to...
No, I'm just,
Yep.
I stated what I received
Okay.
from my core request, which was the interest on the carryover funds.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Yesterday, I was ambushed by a limb at a client's farm. That's a joke. And so I got this gash on my eye, and fortunately it didn't hit my eye, but we worked out the problem with opposing counsel without any further litigation needed on the road problem at that farm. So let me put something on the record first. I have, I'm handing in a definition of infrastructure. I have a definition of infrastructure as defined by a subcommittee that I'm working on with Momentum 2022. And you'll note that number 4 is Parks and Recreation System. We've had discussions outside of the advisory with Parks and Rec, with other committees and other parts of the community discussing how important Parks and Rec is. And that includes with the Chamber and other organizations. I want to mention that the bond votes that were taken earlier, the series that I heard, 2007, 2010, I think 2008, 2011, those all preceded the consolidation, which means that those were spent in the Shawnee County system, which is fine, but I am again pointing out the underfunding of our Parks and Rec under the consolidated system. I would also like to reiterate that with that current $13 million that goes to Parks and Rec, $5 million of that actually comes from fees that Parks and Rec asks for uses of their facilities. So it would appear on face that only $8 million of taxpayer money is actually funding this vast system of 103 parks, including a lake, including 8 community centers, including 27 miles of bike trails that the public very much has said since the early 90s they want in this community, and they have to be maintained. In fact, there's broken concrete right now on the Shunga Trail that's been there for 5 years. since the Parks and Rec consolidation. Included in this vast system is also 157 roofs that have to be maintained. You heard earlier today the leaking going on at the North Community Center. You've seen emails from me, you've seen emails from the very famous Betty Phillips, we call her the Iron Lady of Highcrest. She absolutely quoted word for word in that email the mission of Parks and Rec and what was promised, including during consolidation, which she opposed and I supported. I want to go back to some earlier votes. In 2011, two of the sitting commissioners, one as a city council person, one as a commissioner, voted for the Parks and Rec consolidation. With that vote, it was implied we would maintain that system. I don't think the city council or the city government ever believed that the system would become less. I really don't believe that was in the discussion. I believe it was implied that we would at least maintain at least what we had in that condition. Now, there was some deferred maintenance you took over. I saw it personally at Ward Mead. I was not happy with some of the ways that Parks and Rec was maintaining properties. But I also tell you that from 1991 forward, there should have been an elevator, in my estimation, at the Parks and Rec Center up north, which was part of the county system, to meet the past congressional ADA requirements. Now, I'm sure they would have given you some time to get that done. But 25 years or more, I don't think that meets the spirit of the intent of the law. So I'm not here to debate laws or contracts. What I want to do is reaffirm that a lot of people in this community, including a lot of people in the advisory council with Parks and Rec, want to see this government move forward and reaffirm that Parks and Rec is important. And we're looking for that signal today. We want to know, it's kind of like kids with parents, okay? We're going to do what you do, not what you say. We're looking for those numbers. That budget is what you do, not what you say. What I would prefer today is that you go with Mr. Archer's proposal and pass the full $6 million for Parks and Rec. Now, if you want to divide that into half years, that will pay out $3 million within the next 6 months and $3 million the following 6 months, at least we define where it's going to go to Parks and Rec. I understand that they probably can't spend all this in 1 month, nor would I expect them to. But I think they're going to be good stewards of the money. They've certainly learned how to live with less. And I'll tell you what impresses me about public officials, okay? These are public management people. People, I expect them to solve problems. I don't expect them to pull rabbits out of hats. I expect them to be funded. If the Parks and Rec has needs, I expect John to do the best he can with what he has, but to ask for what he needs. And then it's not about what we may allocate, it's what about you already have in your budget. You already have this money. And there's going to be future needs, and I'm going to talk about that in future budget hearings, because I think we've got some very good solutions already as to how we can solve these problems. But today we're talking about the excess funds. We have neighborhoods that are dependent on these parks. Their property values are dependent on the maintenance of these parks and the condition of these parks. Lake Shawnee adds tremendous economic value to all of those surrounding communities. I'm just talking housing and neighborhoods. Boswell Park adds tremendous value to that small neighborhood over in College Hill. Westboro Park, Collins Park, those are very nice parks, and they add tremendous value to those surrounding neighborhoods. So we are talking in the best sense about neighborhoods, about economic development. We know that 89% of the people in this county, through surveys, support very strong funding of Parks and Rec. We know that we have over 5 million visitors a year to the Parks and Rec system, and that doesn't even count the occasional visitors, the moms taking their kids, the dads taking their kids to the parks. We don't even have an accurate count on that number, but you're probably looking at 6 to 7 million easily of per-person visits to these parks and recreation systems every year. I don't think there's anything more used that belongs to the county. It has to be funded. I will go back quickly to 2011. The vote was taken to consolidate the Parks and Rec. In 2012, it became activated. In 2010, a combined budget was there of the park system of $18 million. Now, it's a combined budget under that system of $13 million. Probably an adequate number in looking at what I've seen. And I do have an MPA in how you manage cities and systems, and it doesn't make me the only person in the room that has knowledge, but it does give me some knowledge. It's probably $15 million. We have the chance, and I know this is about deferred maintenance today, we have the chance to look at and acquire yet another fantastic asset for this Parks and Rec system that's in the southwest quadrant of the county that's underutilized, called Camp Daisy. We're going to be talking about that at the advisory council. We have an opportunity to probably acquire that for less than appraised value if we can have that conversation. We have got to have some conversations as citizens in this community with our commissioners and on the city side with our city government about what this community wants. And the community pays the taxes, and the community has a real desire for Parks and Rec funding. So I'm glad to, have been able to be on that board the last year. I've had a lot of talks with the director about how this system is being run. I don't have all the answers, but I have some of them. And I would appreciate the commission backing Mr. Archer's proposal. And like I said, if you want to split the $3 million in 6-month increments, I understand that. But what concerns me is that even with $3 million today, and that's a start, that's a down payment on what needs to be done, I'm concerned that the other $3 million is potentially going to go to the Expo Center. Not that I'm against them, but the choices have already been made to lose $7 million through bond sales. Okay, that was your choice, wasn't mine. But I don't think it's the public's job to keep coming back and revisiting that issue over and over and over again over the next 10 years. I will point to a remodeling project that I think got out of control. It was called the Capitol Building. And I think it's beautiful what they did, and I encourage people to go over and visit it, see what your money paid for. And it is beautiful. I think it needed to be maintained. But it went from $100 million over 10 years to $400 million because the architects, the consultants, kept coming in and saying, we've got to have more, we need more, we forgot about this, we forgot about that. You know, I get it. They were paid on percentages, as I understand, and I believe in people being paid well. I'm okay with that. But the taxpayers cannot afford 2 Capitol buildings in the same Capitol. And we need to finance and pay for Parks and Rec. So I appreciate your indulgence, appreciate your patience. I think I've said enough for today, but I would encourage you to allocate the whole $6 million of this reserve fund to Parks and Rec. Thank you.
Might note, Mr. Ledbetter, in 2015 was post-consolidation of Parks and Recreation. That was bonded money that paid for the Midwest Health Aquatic Facility, the sound wall at Ward Mead Park, the improvements to the Dornwood baseball facility, and the Lake Shawnee spillway. Those were always post-consolidation.
I heard 2011, I apologize.
2015, that was $11 million.
Spring Park.
That's where I got the 11.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I apologize, I thought it was 2011. Anyway, thank you for that correction, and appreciate all the comments.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Palmer. I will be brief, more brief, and I'm not usually in that position. I would want to agree with Commissioner Bueller and Mrs. Marple. Yes, thankful for the taxpayers and thankful for the county workers who have allowed this overage that you're all talking about. The question I have, and it's just a question, Commissioner Cook, you said, what I interpret was that you were worried that if you were to give more of this all at once, maybe they couldn't take it, or it was too much at once. And I don't know. I mean, you guys have done all the research, and I commend you all for it. And what a great problem to have. Once you allocate the money, does a clock start? And you have to spend it by this date or it disappears? So what is wrong with the allocation? So why would they need to come back? I just would like the answer to that question.
Sure. Going back to, this is whether or not it would be divided between the Expo Center and Parks and Recreation. We know what our immediate needs are for Parks and Recreation. $3 million would be able to get them started immediately. It would be what the department would be able to handle, I think, adequately, immediately. I don't want to overtax the abilities of the department by trying to take on too many projects at one time and not having oversight. One of the areas that Shawnee County has excelled at is by having excellent oversight of our construction contracts. We're able to keep things under budget, on time, and that's one of the advantages that Shawnee County has had as opposed to other municipal or state governments, is just really that oversight. We really have really good management, project managers. And I don't want to stress our project managers being spread in too many different directions at one time. But no, there's not a immediate clock that says you have to have it done by, but we know that we would be kicking off projects immediately. And there were the number 1 and number 2 priority projects during the work session, that they identified 1 through 6 as their priorities, but we would be able to immediately address numbers 1, 2, and into number 3. So getting those kicked off is our top needs moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dick Kitterman, and I am on the Advisory Council for the Parks and Recreation Department. I, like Joe, and just about everybody, I think, on the advisory board, would go along with Commissioner Archer's proposal. We look at the $6 million, and I'm worried that if it's separated, if we just get 3 now, and you leave the rest in that reserve, that something at the Expo Center comes up and they need all this money real quick, and it could go to them. And I'm not being selfish here. I just think that one of the classes I took at Washburn in recreation, one of the very first classes, one of the things that came out of that class was that there were 3 different types of recreation. There's public, which of course is what we provide, private, and corporate. Okay? Being in recreation for a long time during my life, I've always found that the public is the most important to me. It's been mentioned, the taxpayers. If you take a snapshot in your mind, this is Shawnee County, and with all the recreation items that we have to take care of, the parks, especially so many parks, and the rec centers. And then one thing I did see while I was in recreation, one of the things that starts running down first and not being taken care of, we would say deferred maintenance, are the rec centers. We need to show all the citizens of Shawnee County just what kind of a good product that we have and want to continue to give them. The nice thing about public recreation, to me, the Expo Center is a pay-as-you-play type thing. Most things that are going to be going on over there, tickets are going to be a minimum of $35 just to be able to attend it. You have a lot of seniors and so forth that use our trails, use our community centers, and things like that. These are taxpayers that can't afford to go to different concerts and things over there, nor would they probably be interested in some of the concerts that go on over there. And that's the reason why, if we can't get the $6 million that Commissioner Archer has suggested, I would hope that between Commissioner Shelley and you, Mr. Cook, that we get back to the $4 million at least. I don't know if you're able to do this or not, but commit the entire $6 million to us and leave, if you have to, leave the $2 million in there, but protect it just for the Parks and Recreation Department for all of Shawnee County. Just remember, that's providing a service to the poor and seniors who can go out and use some of these facilities. Over at the Oakland Community Center, it's nothing to go in there in the morning after they've opened up and watch a lot of the seniors circling the basketball court, walking, visiting. So I'd rather see us take the opportunity to make sure that we have the money for the upkeep of everything, trails, rec centers, and so forth. And I think the public would prefer that too. And that's all I have to really bring to you.
Thank you.
All right? Thanks.
Any other public comments regarding this item? Commissioner Archer, anything additional?
No, I think it's clear that the Expo Center and Parks and Rec deal with quality of life and quality of place in our community, and they're both critical. There's no doubt about it. My view is that the payoff for Parks and Rec exceeds what we will have at the Expo Center. It will impact more people. It will benefit the health of our community more. That dollars spent there, the payoff is higher. That's plain and simple. And we've neglected to invest in Parks and Rec, and this is an opportunity to do so. And I'm not taking anything away from the Expo Center and the music from the 90s. But to me, Parks and Rec, the payoff is more than the Expo Center at this particular time. And that's my thought, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner
I
Bueller?
don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
I would note that we're getting ready to start our budget cycle again. Budget hearings are all open to the public. Not only are they open to the public, but we also record them online so that you can go back at a later time and see them. I would anticipate and expect that during this next budget cycle, we're going to have a continued discussion of achieving 5-year plans and having deferred maintenance items addressed on a regular basis. Again, one of the things that we have a committed spirit to is to avoid the peaks and valleys that we sometimes encounter. Sometimes those peaks and valleys are outside of our control when there's an economic crisis, such as Commissioner Bueller, you faced in through 2008 through 2012. Sometimes we're doing well, as we are now, with excess funds. This won't be here every day. This won't be here all the time. We're doing well now, but that's only because we're able to really closely monitor every dollar, every fund. That's true. And we don't know also, there's things outside of our control, such as the state. The state may impose more liabilities upon us outside of our control. Let's hope they don't. But moving forward is having 5-year plans, having level payments, dedicating a set amount each month or every year to go towards Parks and Recreation. The one concern that I would have, just to address Camp Daisy. Camp Daisy is a beautiful facility. I think it's a jewel and an asset, and I go on record as saying that. But for us as the county commissioners to take on new additional responsibilities, since we are struggling to maintain the ones we have already, I think that is something that we would have to closely look at how we would be able to maintain it if we do move forward with anything involving Camp Daisy. It's just, we have an obligation to maintain that what we already have before we bite off something new. But if it's able to be managed, and there's an appropriate plan and an action item brought forth by our Parks and Rec director, I think that every commissioner here is open and looking to see what we can do. And that would go with any project that Parks and Rec has, not limited just to Camp Daisy, but with every new project. What can we afford to do, and we'll be able to maintain it? Might remind, Dornwood's only half done. I see some of our Dornwood baseball diamond people here. There's still baseball diamonds to be done. Parks and Rec, we still have trails that left to be extended. So there's not only deferred maintenance, but there's new maintenance items that need to be addressed as well, the complete projects. So there is a motion on the floor to allocate $3 million to Parks and Rec deferred maintenance. At this time, made by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion passes 2-1 with Commissioner Archer dissenting. Our next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
This is an opportunity for any member of the public or department head to address the commission on any item of interest or information. That's a first. Commissioner Bueller, anything for Administrative Communications?
Looking forward to this afternoon, to the luncheon.
Yes.
Yes.
There is the State of the Community luncheon today. Well, we address how the county and the city have done in 2017 and what the future outlooks are for our county.
Yep.
City. Commissioner Archer.
And I can barely contain my excitement about that also. No, it is going to be a good event, and I do look forward to the comments from the new mayor and from Commissioner Cook. I expect them to be positive and uplifting for our community, and I look forward to the luncheon today. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I don't have anything else to add other than it's going to be a little bit different than your average State of the Community, so be prepared. Our next item.
Item 6, Executive Session.
There is a need for an executive session for 15 minutes. This will be on 3 items. Consultation with the attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship to discuss pending litigation. Consultation with the attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship regarding pending administrative matter. And then finally, consultation with the attorney for the public or body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship relating to the contract for coroner services. That's a motion made for 15 minutes.
Boy, I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. We are in executive session. No action taken. We are adjourned.
So you can just...
I think we should just sign in between these, or do you want it off to the side? Commissioner, let's just sign it above.
We're trying to do it all on one page.
I'll just do it.